Indeed. Thank you very much for bringing all of that back to mind, because economic disparities exist within our grouping of ECOWAS, and one begins to wonder how much ECOWAS can really do in that regard. You've just finished saying that, look, Nigeria and maybe Ghana to a lesser extent, but still very important, have really been the prime financial movers, because all of these things do require resources, and they do require for every member country to, come pay up its dues. Right now, I don't know the figures as to how well people are doing, but my mind just goes back to the United Nations and Trump complaining at one time that we are virtually carrying this whole thing, and so now we have to change the way we're doing business. Well, I suppose we're not like that in Africa. We always will have a friendly way to say these things, but realistically, these economic disparities, can anything, what are your thoughts on how this can be addressed? Because you said that it started out as a sort of a committee of friends, but then as we moved along, it evolved. Because every country has its own headache. What with climate change, unconstitutional changes of government that you've also touched on, and really everybody concerning themselves with their own day-to-day affairs. Where is apart from that, that you've also advocated to have the notion, the goodness, so to speak, to see us as one block and therefore work for it. Immediately, at least you mentioned Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger pulling out. Perhaps if there had been a bit more, depth of thought, it would have been seen as too valuable to pull out of. But as I said, in spite of us being within the same block, everybody still seems to feel that if there's a need, we'll go our independent way. And there doesn't seem to be a commitment by everybody that, look, it might cost us dearly, but we have to be part of this union. So this independence of spirit, is that the right word to use? And when you look at wanting to see what can be done about economic disparities in a positive way, like I think it was President Tinubu speaking there yesterday, who had said that in spite of all of that, it's a promise, and it is a valuable promise, and so we must all stick with it. Are you optimistic that indeed this council will prevail as we go along?
Well, I hope it prevails. And if it's going to prevail, Nigeria is going to play a very significant role. Nigeria is already playing a critical role, in ECOWAS. And I want to believe it is based on this African concept of being your brother's keepers. Otherwise, if Nigeria was to look at a Nigeria first approach, um, it will have a lot of effect, boomerang effect on some of our neighbors. Recall that in spite of the withdrawal of Niger from ECOWAS, Nigeria has had to intervene in its petroleum crisis a few months ago. Just in the spirit of brotherliness.
Yes.
Even when the Association of Sahel, nations seem more or less have closed their borders against, citizens of other West African ECOWAS countries. ECOWAS remains open. ECOWAS countries remains open, to citizens, of those countries. I think those are some of the steps in the right direction that will energize or perhaps recalibrate the thinking of leaders in those other countries. So the critical role that Nigeria plays in terms of trade, in terms of free movement of citizens, and Nigeria's fidelity to a fault, in promoting this, I think should be brought out in the open to let, member countries of ECOWAS understand that if Nigeria, which appears to be carrying the burden of, ECOWAS, decides to recoil and have a Nigeria first approach, it's going to have significant repercussions, for them. I mean, all you need to do is pay a visit to border areas in Nigeria, and you see the amount of invisible trade, that is happening across the Nigerian border. And of course, this was underscored a few years back with the closure of Nigerian borders. You could see that the presidents of some of our neighboring countries were pursuing, President Buhari all over the place, in London, in New York, trying to prevail on him to open Nigerian borders. That already indicates the almost, indispensability of Nigeria to ECOWAS. So I'm thinking that Nigeria has that role to play, and we can use that power, soft power, economic power, even military power, to bring all these countries, to the table, so that they can see that they also have a role to play in ensuring, mutual security, especially across the Sahel region, and in promotion of economic activities, especially from the backdrop of the African Continental Free Trade, agreement. I want to believe that ECOWAS as a bloc can achieve so much more than we are achieving at this moment if member countries are made to see or recognize the positives in having this bloc, elevated to something that is going to be more impactful on the sovereignty, of the different member states, and also the well-being of their